So we are currently on the latest version of Clinic Essentials. So version 7.17.9 is the latest release that we have. And all of the features that I will be going over today are in this build of the software. So if you are not on the current build of the software, you will not have access to some of these features. If that is the case, please give us a call at the help desk after the webinar, and we can get you updated to the latest versions. So the first thing I wanted to go over is emailing within Clinic Essentials. And this is something new that we have added. You are able to now email out of Clinic Essentials to anyone that has an email address, be it your patients or practitioners or other staff members. Different things you can email is reports. So let's say you want to email your day sheets to your practitioners. So you can do that. You can email them their schedules for tomorrow. If you wanted to email your patients a copy of their invoice, you can do that as well as maybe a statement for last year or an AR report to a bookkeeper. You can do all of this within Clinic Essentials now. So to set this up, you will require a couple things to set this up. The easiest thing to do is to contact us, and we can assist you with the setup of it. If you are comfortable with doing it yourself, then you can do this from the white background in Clinic Essentials. And if you go to Tables, and then go to Configuration. And it's the last tab on here, it's the Email tab. And this little flag right here at the top left, use SMTP for email. What this does, if this is flagged, this just overrides whatever your default email is on your computer. So if you are currently using, let's say, Microsoft Outlook to send your emails, anything you send out of Clinic Essentials will be just sent out of Clinic Essentials. It will no longer use Microsoft Outlook. So if you come in here, you can just enable that. One thing I'd like to mention is you can have a different email address per practitioner. This is possible, or you can have one generic one that you use that comes directly from the clinic. So on the right side here, you would put in your display name. So this is our test database. So Frost Clinic is our test company. And then we have here email from address. So the from address is who the email is being sent from. Generically, you'll probably want it to be info@yourclinicname.com. So we can change this here, info@clinic.com. You can set it up like so. Now, this is the part that you will need to have information for. This is dependent upon what type of internet you use and who it's with. So if you're with Shaw, TELUS, different providers, you'll have to have their SMTP server settings in here. So we use Shaw. So that's what we have in here. And then server type with the ISP, you do have the option for Gmail. If you do want to use Gmail, so if you have a Gmail account, you'll have to input your username and password. That is a Gmail requirement. On the left side here, if you want to have a copy of the email go into your inbox, so if you want to see a copy of all the emails you send out, just flag this right here, and it will blind copy you on all of the emails you send out of Clinic Essentials. This we added in here because there are some times that the email, if the email doesn't go through, if the patient says that they didn't receive the email, you don't have a sent box or an out box if you use the SMTP server settings within Clinic Essentials, because it's being sent directly from server to server. So there is no third-party software that you're using, essentially. So all this does is just send the copy to you as well, so you know that the email did go through, and it's likely just caught in the junk folder or a spam filter. Now, this is the setup of it. So again, if you have any questions with this, just give us a call and we'll help you set it up. Now, to send the email itself, so if we go to the scheduler here, and we want to email this patient, so we want to email them an invoice. Okay, so what you can do, there's several different ways you can access the screen, the email screen. If we want to send them an invoice, just go to the Edit Billing screen, so you can access it by double-clicking or clicking the View button at the top right. And at the bottom here, you'll notice that we added a third option. So you're familiar with print invoice, view invoice. We now have an option for email invoice. So you just check this off, and then you hit save. And what this does is it brings up the email template screen. So this is what it looks like. You can see here that attached, you have your PDF. So this is the invoice itself that you're attaching. And you've got some buttons at the top here, and you've got some options here. And then you've got the send button at the top right. Now, if you were to hit send right now, it'll just send the patient a blank email with an attachment. Normally, you'll want to put a little blurb in there as to what it is, or a subject line or anything. So you want to use this drop down here, and you want to select one of these. These are our test ones that we have created, just to test different bugs or different features with it, just to make sure everything's working correctly. Now, this one here, they're not, like, this isn't pre-populated in Clinic Essentials because all of these will be unique by clinic. It can be unique. You can put any information in there that you want. Any sort of message you want to send to your patients, you can include into this generic message. And why I say it's a generic message is because in the body of the email, if you'll notice, there is no identifying information for the patient in there. It has the generic client's F name, so client first name. You have that in there. So when you put this into the body of the email, what it'll do is when you send the email out, it will input the patient's actual name in there. So you can send this to multiple patients. You can use the same template for multiple patients, and each one of them will have different information in there because they all have different names, different last visit dates, different practitioners, and so forth. So if you wanted to send the invoice, you just have to come in here, select your email invoice or whatever you decide to call the template, and hit send. It'll send the patient an email. It's instant because it's from server to server, and it'll send a copy, if you enabled it to do so, to your inbox, a blind copy. Now, to create a new template, if you wanted to create a new one, as you don't have them pre-populated in there, you can just access that screen again. So I'll show you another way that you can do it. There's an email button right beside the patient's email address. So here, if we create a new template, so you can see everything is blanked out. We'll call this test email. And so this template name is for your eyes only. Nobody sees this but whoever is sending the email. The patient never sees the template name. In here in the subject line, this the patient will see. So let's call this a copy of your statement. And in the body of the email, this is where you want to write your message that you want to give your patients. So we'll say, dear patient. So we don't know who the patient's going to be because it'll be all your patients. So we'll use this little insert field at the top, and we'll select client first name here. So it'll say, let's say if this email was being sent to me, it would say, Dear Carolina. Okay. Here is a copy of your statement, and you could sign it off however you would like. So, and you can also input here, if it wasn't for a statement, you could, there's different options of what you could input into the template. Last appointment date, like whenever the last appointment was, who it was with, so the practitioner name, who the practitioner is, the practitioner last name, their first name. You can also add their next appointment date and time in there too. And once you've typed everything out, just hit save at the top, and it saves the template, and then you can use it anytime in the future. So that is basically the A to Z of emailing within Clinic Essentials. A new feature that we did add in, I believe, version 7.14, we've added that. Now, another thing we've added, that, as some of you might have seen, is appointment reminders via SMS. So you can now text message reminders to your patients instead of emailing them or calling them. This is accessed through the appointment reminder screen, so it's the same screen as before. We've just added a new field in the middle here. So these messages at the bottom, you'll see, so you've got the 3 columns. The left one on the phone, which has been there from day one. Then the new one in the middle. for text messages. That one is new. And then the one on the right for email, that one is fairly new as well. So in here, when you've got it all set up, all you'll have to do to remind your patients of their appointments is open the screen and hit send at the bottom under text message and email. It'll just send out a mass email to all your patients, so it'll be an individual email for each one, as well as a text message for each one located to their phone. In order for a text message to go to the patient, you will require 2 bits of information from them. The first one is their cell phone number, which is self-explanatory. The second one is their phone provider. So this is something that is required by the software that we use to send these messages out. We do require the provider in order to get the message to them. So if the provider is incorrect, then they will not receive the text message. So if you want to set this up at your clinic, be sure to ask your patients not just for their cell phone numbers, but also for their cell phone provider. So in here, the messages that you see at the bottom, these are just generic ones that we've set up. You will recognize the terminology in here from the email template screen that we had when we were setting up the template for the patients. So in here, this is just a generic one that we usually have typed in here. Something similar for the text message, but it has to be a lot shorter because you're only allowed 140 characters, and this is the max number of characters you can have in one message. To change this message or to add it, you just have to click Edit at the bottom, and then you can just start typing at the bottom. So start typing like so. Now, at the top left, you'll notice that you do have the option to select different practitioners. So you can have a unique message per practitioner, or you can have a generic clinic message. So if you have multiple practitioners and they would all like their messages to say something different, you do have the option to do that. You just have to select the patient or the practitioner. So let's say this practitioner. Select here, use practitioner message. You'll notice that everything blanks out because we have not set one up for this practitioner yet. You can hit Edit at the bottom and just start typing. So this would be your subject, and this would be the body of email, and so forth. You would start typing it in and insert the patient identifying information at the top here. Let's see here. Now, for where to input the patient, like where you store this information, is under patient information. So same test patient we had as before, and it's patient information. And it's under the other tab. So at the bottom right, we've added a new field here. So this patient wants to be reminded by cell phone. So you notice we have a cell phone in here for the patient. Here we have selected text. And then here I've selected a cell carrier. So I mean, we have a number of different carriers here that we've added. If there are some that you do not see on this list that your patients do use, just let us know and we will add them as well. These are just the most popular ones that we've had requested thus far. And then you can hit save, and if you want to test this as the patient is right there in front of you, just hit test, it'll send them a text message. A couple things to mention with different cell phone providers. They all have different ways of handling messages that come from a computer. So these text messages are not from cell phone to cell phone, they are from computer to cell phone. So they are treated a little bit differently. Rogers, for example, requires you to, by default, they do not allow messages from computers to go to a cell phone as a text message. So what you'll have to do, or your patient would have to do if they are on Rogers, they might have to give them a call and ask them to enable it so that they can receive these text messages. I do see that we have a question. I would ask that all questions are saved till the end. I will go over everything with you if you have any questions. That wraps up the appointment reminders via email and SMS. One thing that we have added that has been requested quite frequently is emailing the patient recalls. So I don't know how many of you are using the recall system, but it is located here. So this is not a new feature in the software. This has been here since version 7.8, which was ages ago, well, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So if you open the recall reminder list here, if you have a patient selected in there, so let's just say, you know what, let's show completed here. So we have a patient here, and you can see that we've added a new column on the left side with a little envelope. If the background of the envelope is green, it means the patient has an email address inputted under patient information. And that means you can email them. So if you click on that, it'll bring the screen up, which we're now familiar with. And you can select your recall. So let's say a 60-day recall. This is the template that you would have set up already, and then just hit send. And what it'll do is it will complete the recall and send the patient an email for the recall. Now, if the background is red, it means the patient does not have an email address under patient information, and you will need to call them to recall them back to the clinic, or you can get an email address for them and start using the email feature within recall. Again, you will not have access to this unless you have set up the email within Clinic Essentials, or you're on the latest version. The next thing to go over is the patient follow-up report. This report, I've noticed, is not very commonly used by clinics. This report is great if you have any patients that are falling through the cracks. They're not booking a future appointment, they're not booking a future recall, and essentially you never hear from them again. So a patient comes in, let's say last month, that didn't book another appointment and they were never added as a recall. What you can do is if you run this report, that patient will then show up on the report because they don't have any other future way of coming back into the clinic unless you call them, basically. So where to access this report is from the reports screen here. So we're all familiar with the print appointments button. And it would be under patient. It's called the patient follow-up report. So we have it right there. And if you do not have it here, you can always add it by clicking the Add Reports to List button, and then click on All Reports at the bottom. This brings up all the reports we have in our report suite. You do have access to every single one of them. Feel free to use them. And then just click Add and then Done, and it'll add the report to the list. So if we run this report, let's say for the month of, let's say from January 1st of this year to say March. So what we're doing now is we're looking at all the patients that came in for an appointment during that time frame that does not have a future recall, that does not have a future appointment, and basically hasn't been seen again. Any patients that are marked as deceased or inactive will not, or archived, they will not show up on this list either. And then we have all our practitioners selected on the right. If we preview it, you can see here that all of these patients here, they have not been back in to see us. So what you can do is you can give them a call, recall them back to the clinic, use the report as you would like, but this is the type of information that will be shown on there. And this is the first report I will always suggest if someone is looking for a way to increase patient retention and for a way to basically keep recalling their patients back. So the next thing on the list here is something that's actually quite exciting. It's the Teleplan tools. This is one of the most popular features that we've added into Clinic Essentials. And Teleplan tools, what we did was we removed, or we just made it easier to do your submissions and remittances. So this is for anyone that submits electronically to Teleplan. You can now do this within the software, so you can do it right from Clinic Essentials. You no longer have to log in manually to their website and attach your submission and pick up your remittance and post it. You don't have to do it that way anymore. What we've done is we've just added it. It's under Teleplan Tools. So if you close your screens and you go to the white screen, you go to MSP, Teleplan Tools, and this is pre-populated with your data center number. And then this is where your password would be. So let's type in the password and press log on. Okay, and then it logs you into the Teleplan website, basically. And what you do is when you hit the submit button, it does a multitude of things. It creates your submission, and it uploads it to the Teleplan website, and it sends it to Teleplan, and it prints the submission as well. So all those were separate steps that you had to do before. This is all done in just one click of the button. And then the remittance tab, you just hit retrieve. This is our data center right now. This is just a test data center number as a vendor, so we don't actually have any remittances to post. But if we were to hit retrieve here, it's a blank remittance. So do you want to post it now? We'll say yes. And then we're familiar with this screen here. This hasn't changed. And then you hit print. It'll give you the close update. And then this message because there's no actual records in there. And then it posts it. One thing you want to be very careful of is on this screen here, if you create your submission and you receive an error message, you have to give us a call so that we can resolve whatever that error is. It is usually going to be a sequence number error. They have decreased in frequency quite a bit since we've implemented Teleplan tools, but it does happen sometimes. And a sequence error, all it means is that you're trying to send a submission, but they haven't received one prior to that. And you have to send that one first before you can send this one, because you have to, all of your submissions have to be sent to Teleplan in sequence. So if you do see an error message, just give us a call. It's usually really quick for us to fix it. Another thing in here that we've added is eligibility. No longer do you have to call Teleplan to check an eligibility for a patient or check it on a website or any sort of form that you've used before. All you need is a patient's name, their PHN, and a birth date. And this is on the patient screen as well. Really easy to access. If your patient is marked as MSP and they have a valid PHN, you will have access to this from their patient screen. I will show you in just a moment here. And change password. You can change your Teleplan password in here. The Teleplan password resets every 45 days. You are forced to change the password. That hasn't changed. You will still have to change it in here. But if you wanted to change it more frequently than that, you can just do it right from the screen as well. And under patient, if your patient is marked as MSP, so that is under the other tab, you have it as MSP here. And let's find a patient with a PHN here. Okay, so other, and then mark it as MSP. What you see here at the top, MSP elig. As soon as you hit your password and press log on, it automatically checks the eligibility for the patient. You will be able to see how many visits they have left or how many visits they have used. Okay. Now, for Teleplan tools, for anyone that is not familiar with it, we do have a knowledge base article on our website, clinicessentials.com, and it's under support and knowledge base, detailing everything I just went over, and it's got some screenshots in there as well to walk you through it if you had any questions with it, or if you wanted to use it as a reference guide for anyone that at your clinic that will be new to doing the submissions and remittances. The last thing on the list to go over, last but not least, is the online scheduler. Now, I'm sure you've all seen emails coming from us talking about the online scheduler. And I have done a webinar about it as well, but for those that did not get a chance to attend the webinar or to view it after the fact, I'll tell you a bit about it. The online scheduler will allow your patients to book their appointments at your clinic from your website. So they don't have to call to book their appointments or email or anything like that. You will be provided with an embed code that you can just put into your website, and your patients can just log in from there or put in their information from there. And what it does is it pops up into Clinic Essentials as an online appointment. This feature also gives you access to your schedule on an iPhone or any type of iCal. Android phones or Windows phones, you can also view the schedule on there. You just have to have an app on there that views iCal calendars. iPhone, it's the default one, so it pops up just in the calendar. You will also be able to create appointments and to edit appointments from this calendar. So if your practitioner is off-site, say for example, treating players at a football game, and he says, you know, come see me tomorrow at so-and-so time, he can book the appointment right on his phone. No longer does the patient have to call at the clinic and book the appointment that way. This also gives your patients access to book appointments after hours. So if you're closed or are taking some time off, they can book appointments for the times that you have allotted for online booking. And it shows up in your Clinic Essentials just as a regular appointment. Now, with this, new patients are able to book appointments online as well. If you do not wish for new patients to book online appointments from your website, if you want them to come into the clinic or to call, then you just have to put a disclaimer on the web page as well, just saying for new patients, please book at the clinic. To enable this feature, you have to call us. It's something we have to turn on. It is not turned on by default. All of the framework is in the latest versions of Clinic Essentials. So as long as you're on a later version, you will not need to update to gain access to this if you should wish to use it. The setup of it is done from the practitioner screen. So if we go here, this is our test practitioner. You'll notice that there's an online tab here and online calendar administration. So this is the booking administration page. So this is all the stuff that I've set up here. It goes into further detail on the online scheduler webinar. I'll just give you a brief overview today. So you've got your quick link here, your short URL. You can set up a number of different types of appointments and specify the length of time that they take. You can block off accessibility for the online scheduler. So if you don't want patients to be able to book appointments between, let's say, 12 and 1, as that's their lunch hour, you can block that off in blue. If you don't want them to book, like if you're closed on Sundays, you can block that off. They won't be able to book it. You can set a time zone in here. You can allow booking within X number of days. So if you do not want patients to be able to book online appointments for, let's say, 14 days plus, you can set this to 14 days. And your patients will only be able to book 14 days ahead, so 2 weeks ahead. Here, this is this information here that you see, this is just what the patient sees. So this is the page that the patient sees when they are booking their appointment. So they just put in their first name, their last name, their email address, phone number, then they request their appointment type, their appointment time and date, and then select a type here. Any special requests will show up as well, and then just request booking. If the time is available, it will tell them that the request has been accepted, but it is pending approval by the clinic. So that's something that you set up on here as well. So confirmation message here. Your appointment will not be confirmed until you receive an email from the clinic, email or phone call if that's how you want to do it, but you can email them as well. This is the embed code right at the bottom that you will be provided. Everyone has a unique embed code for every practitioner that you will be able to put on the website, on your website. So if you have multiple practitioners, they'll each have their own unique embed code. How you know that there's online appointments available, if you do have it turned on, so if your practitioner does use online booking, you'll see here, view online appointments. So this is what it looks like when you do not have any appointments outstanding. So you'll see the background is clear. If there are unaccepted online appointments, it will show up in red like this here. So this is, you'll know that there's unaccepted appointments waiting to be accepted. So we have this patient here. This one's a little old, it's just a test appointment. But basically, it just needs to be accepted. When it's accepted, you have the option to send the patient an email to confirm it. Massage therapists, sometimes massage clinics, they just like to accept appointments and not confirm them. They'll just accept any appointments, which is fine. You have that option as well. But if you want to accept appointments and make sure that nothing is being double booked, you can accept it through here, send the email. You can also decline it from here if you want the patient to reschedule for another time. You can do it from here as well. For more information on that, feel free to look at or to view the webinar recording on the Clinic Essentials website for the online scheduler. It has not yet been released. It is done testing. We're just finalizing a few things on it, so it will be released very soon. I can't give you an exact date on it, but very soon. And it is a paid feature. It's not something that is going to be included in the Clinic Essentials versions. So if you do wish to use it, or if your practitioners do wish to use the online scheduler, they will need to give us a call, and it will be a paid-for feature. And it is $25 per practitioner, and that is per month as well. Thank you, everyone, very much for joining us on the webinar, and hope to talk to you soon.